My name is Eric Hansen, and this is another edition of Treelawn Talks. It's our occasional program highlighting upcoming events at the Treelawn Social Club and the Treelawn Music Hall, both located at 15335 Waterloo Road, Cleveland, Ohio, just off of I-90, not too far from Lake Erie in the Collinwood Waterloo Arts District. And we're really excited to have beaming in from his tour in Europe, jazz pianist Fred Hersch. Thanks for coming on the program, Fred.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Fred will be giving a solo performance, the very first solo performance we're hosting at Treelawn Music Hall. It's going to be Friday, June 7 at 8 p.m. He's no stranger to solo recordings and solo performances, probably more than anyone on the scene today. He is touring his new ECM release, Silent Listening, and it's his second release for ECM, his first solo release for them, and it just came out in March or April. April. For those of you who are not familiar, ECM is a legendary jazz label. Editions of, I looked this up, contemporary music, right? Or I guess that's what ECM stands for.
Actually, it stands for Manfred Eicher's initials backwards.
Oh, it does. Okay. Okay. I thought there was something there. Okay. Manfred Eicher is German, right? Or Austrian?
Yes, German.
German, and he started this label in 1989. Probably Keith Jarrett. I mean, there's so many wonderful musicians who have recorded for it, but it's become really a tastemaker, if for want of a better term, but just a really well-respected label among jazz aficionados and just music lovers in general. And I've heard Fred describe this too in other interviews, and I felt the same way. I would blindly buy ECM records without knowing anything about the artist, and I was really never disappointed. So it's always a high level of musicianship, high level production, etc. As I mentioned, Fred will be presenting a solo performance. Can you talk a little bit about how you started, when and how you started doing solo performances, and how that has evolved over the years, and how it's a different journey than collaborations?
Yeah, well, to just give a bit of background, I'm 68. I moved to New York in 1977. Got a chance to hang out. Well, I first of all got a chance to play with some of the great legends of the music: Joe Henderson, Stan Getz, Charlie Hayden, many, many others. And I also hung out in the clubs with all the great piano players of the day: Tommy Flanagan and Jimmy Rolls, and just on and on and on. There was a pianist, Sir Roland Hanna, who was really, his best stuff was his solo piano. He was heavily classically influenced and a really, really top-notch solo player. And he was the one who said, I think you would be really good at this. I did my very first solo concert in Cincinnati, which is my hometown, in a loft downtown around 1980. And then I presented a solo concert at what is now the Newport Jazz Festival. So that was sort of a warm-up. And then I did my first solo album for the Concord Jazz Maybach recital series. There were about 46 or 7 pianists who all played concerts that were recorded in a small concert hall in somebody's home in Berkeley, California. And since then, I've done 12 solo albums, about half of them live, some in the studio, from places ranging from the Village Vanguard to Jordan Hall, Boston. This chance to record for ECM, actually ECM started in 1972. I listened to my first Keith Jarrett record around 1973 or 4. And back then, solo piano was kind of Keith Jarrett on one hand and Cecil Taylor on the other. And there were some people in the middle, but I knew that I wasn't either of those and sort of had to find my own way with it. The new album, which is Silent, Listening, and the comma is very important. It's like anticipation or patience or how the sound comes out of the silence. And it was recorded, as all ECM albums are, in the best possible conditions in the famous auditorium of the Swiss Radio in Lugano, Switzerland, on a fabulous 9-foot Hamburg Steinway. I've produced most of my own albums, but Manfred Eicher is a legendary producer, and I went in not over-prepared because I wanted to see what he would bring to the table. I had some ideas, but things happened very spontaneously. I recorded things I had no intention of recording or even playing. There's a lot of what I call spontaneous composition, pieces that are 95% improvised without any harmonic structure or melody, really. Next week, I'm going to be recording a trio album for ECM on the same stage in Lugano, but without headphones, just like we're playing a concert in a beautiful hall acoustically. That'll be for release next year. So I feel like after 21 years at Palmetto Records, which was great, I feel like ECM is kind of my new home. And the fact that, 50 years ago, I listened to my first ECM albums and now I'm recording there is just a kind of a great full circle, and it's happening at a good time in my life. They're really getting behind this release. I'm doing tons of solo concerts over here in Europe. Right after I play for you, I'm going to Evanston, Illinois, and Minneapolis. I played in Oakland and LA and New York. So the solo thing is a little more front and center now than would normally be. I'll come back to Europe in the fall for more. So yeah, it's something that I feel comfortable with and I enjoy. Being on the road alone is not always the most fun. Nice to be with a band, hang out, all that, but especially over here in Europe, I'm playing great halls and fabulous pianos, so I'm very happy.
That sounds great. I've heard you describe some of your live recordings as accidental. I know there's one at Bim House where you recorded. You didn't know it, you were just performing, and they handed you a recording afterwards, which sounds wonderful and kind of slightly terrifying, perhaps at the same time. It makes me think also about the relationship of someone like you coming into a piano. You're just meeting it for the first time, like you will be in Cleveland, and it's such an intimate connection. I'm wondering how you do that when you find a piano that's more or less to your liking, and how that works, and also how you've described yourself and people describe you as a very emotional player, and the idea of getting emotion out of a piano that you've just met, so to speak. I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the best pianos, I don't even have to think about the action. I mean, it's totally responsive. Whatever I put into it is exactly what I get out of it. There's a whole range of color. The action is free and easy. Playing solo piano, my connection with the piano and secondarily the acoustics are the most important things.